You want to know what makes a woman unforgettable? It's not her looks. It's not her status. It's not even her money. It's her value. The kind of value that can't be bought, copied, or faked. And today, I'm going to give you 6 unshakable truths that will make you a high-value woman. The kind of woman who doesn't chase, doesn't settle, and doesn't apologize for being extraordinary. You want to know what makes a woman unforgettable? It's not her looks. It's not her status. It's not even her money. It's her value. The kind of value that can't be bought, copied, or faked. And today, I'm going to give you one truth. One that has the power to shift everything in your life. Because until you master this, nothing else matters. A high-value woman owns her standards without apology. She does not dilute who she is to make herself more digestible. She does not play small to keep others comfortable. Her standards are the filter through which she builds her relationships, her career, her lifestyle. And when I say standards, I don't just mean what she expects from others. I mean the expectations she has for herself. When a woman lowers her standards, she is telling the world, I don't believe I deserve more. And the world believes her. That's why people take advantage. That's why opportunities slip through her fingers. Not because she isn't capable, but because she silently communicated that she would settle. The truth is, people will only treat you as well as you require them to. If you don't demand respect, you won't get it. If you don't demand excellence, you won't receive it. Owning your standards is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. It means you know your worth so deeply that you will walk away from anything or anyone that doesn't meet the level of respect, effort, and integrity you stand for. Does it feel uncomfortable sometimes? Absolutely. Will people call you too much? Without a doubt. But remember this. The ones who try to shame you for having high standards are the very ones who benefit when you lower them. Never forget that. And here's the truth that shakes people: your standards are not negotiable. They are not up for debate. They are not situational. Because the second you break your own rules, you send a message louder than any words that you don't really mean what you say. Consistency builds power. If you say you won't tolerate disrespect, then don't. If you say honesty matters to you, then let dishonesty be a deal breaker. The strength of a woman's boundaries defines the strength of her life. I've seen too many women confuse being flexible with being walked over. They think compromise means sacrificing their non-negotiables. But there is a difference between compromise and self-betrayal. A high-value woman knows that she can be understanding without lowering her bar. She can be compassionate without abandoning her principles. She can be kind without being a doormat. This balance is what separates her from the rest. Here's the part most women miss: high standards are not walls to keep people out. They are gates that allow only the worthy in. When you hold your standards high, you don't push love away. You attract the right kind of love. You don't push opportunities away. You magnetize the ones aligned with your vision. Lower standards create noise. High standards create clarity. And clarity is what allows you to build a life that feels like it was designed for you. because it was. So when I say own your standards, I mean own them with your whole chest, with conviction, with unshakable energy. Speak them, live them, breathe them. Let people whisper. Let them misunderstand you. Because while they're talking, you'll be rising. You'll be building. You'll be shaping a life that doesn't just happen to you. It is chosen, designed, and fiercely protected by you. Remember this: your standards are not negotiable. They are not weaknesses. They are not obstacles. They are your crown. And when you wear that crown without apology, you stop being replaceable. You become unforgettable. If there's one truth that separates women who rise from women who break, it's this: a high-value woman builds her power from within, not from approval. Approval is fleeting. Approval is fragile. And when you live for it, you are building your life on a foundation that will crack the moment it's shaken. True power doesn't come from how many people clap for you. It comes from the strength of your own voice when no one else is listening. When your confidence depends on compliments, likes, or someone choosing you, you are living on borrowed energy. And borrowed energy always runs out. Think about it. What happens when the compliments stop? When the likes don't pour in? When the people you've been waiting on never choose you? If your identity is built on approval, you collapse. But a high-value woman doesn't collapse because her validation comes from the inside. She knows who she is, even in silence, even in rejection, even in loneliness. This kind of inner power is rare because it's easier to chase applause than to cultivate self-belief. It's easier to scroll for validation than to sit with yourself and say, I am enough. But ease never builds greatness. A high-value woman chooses the harder path, the path of rooting herself so deeply in her own worth that no storm can uproot her. That's why people feel her presence before she even speaks. That's why she radiates something magnetic. Because she doesn't need to be chosen to feel valuable. She chose herself first. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean she doesn't appreciate love, recognition, or support. Of course she does. But those things are extras, not essentials. They're the decoration, not the foundation. She does not depend on them to breathe, to move, to rise. When you can stand in a room where no one claps for you and still know you are powerful, that is when you become unstoppable. That is when you stop being controlled by opinions and start controlling your own destiny. And here's what happens when you stop living for approval. You gain freedom. Freedom from manipulation. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from the fear of being disliked. Because when your self-worth is rooted internally, rejection no longer destroys you. Criticism no longer defines you. Silence no longer scares you. You stop chasing people and you start attracting people. Because nothing is more magnetic than a woman who validates herself so powerfully that the world can't help but believe her. So hear this and never forget it. Power built on approval is fragile. Power built from within is eternal. The day you decide that your worth is not up for debate, the day you stop begging for permission to exist, is the day you become a force no one can overlook. That kind of woman doesn't just walk into a room. She owns it. Not because people clap, but because her presence is already enough. Remember this: a high value woman does not wait to be chosen. She chooses herself first. She validates her own worth, and that is why she becomes unforgettable. Approval fades. But self-belief, that is power for life. Respect, it is not something you beg for. It is not something you plead for. Respect is commanded. And the way you command, it is not through force, not through desperation, but through the undeniable presence of who you are. A high-value woman doesn't chase respect, she embodies it. People feel it in her tone, in her silence, in the way she carries herself without needing to explain. Presence is power. You can walk into a room without saying a single word, and the atmosphere shifts. If your energy carries the weight of self-respect, how you stand, how you look into someone's eyes, how you choose your words with precision instead of rushing to fill the silence. Respect begins long before you open your mouth. It begins with the aura you cultivate through self-awareness and conviction. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to scream it. Her presence speaks louder than noise ever could. Too many women confuse attention with respect. They think if people are looking at them, if people are listening, they must be respected. But attention fades. Respect stays. Attention can be manipulated. Respect must be earned. A high-value woman understands the difference. She doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room, but when she does speak, people lean in. Not because she entertains them, but because she carries a truth and authority that can't be ignored. Commanding respect also means knowing how to hold boundaries with grace. You don't have to raise your voice to assert yourself. You don't have to explain your worth 100 times. A simple no, spoken with certainty, has more weight than 1,000 justifications. A high-value woman isn't afraid of silence. She isn't afraid of disapproval. She knows that the moment she betrays her own boundaries, she loses the very respect she is trying to command. Respect is also mirrored. People will only respect you as much as you respect yourself. If you allow disrespect, if you excuse it, if you brush it under the rug, you are teaching others how to treat you. Self-respect is the soil from which external respect grows. When you walk with integrity, when your words match your actions, when your life reflects discipline and clarity, people have no choice but to acknowledge you. They may not like you, but they cannot dismiss you. And here is the ultimate truth. A high-value woman doesn't demand respect because she already embodies it. She is not desperate for validation because she validates herself every single day through how she lives, how she chooses, how she shows up. And that consistency creates something unshakable. Respect is not begged, not borrowed, not stolen. It is commanded. And once you understand that, you no longer fight for your place in the world. You own it. Remember, this irrespect is not about being liked. It is about being undeniable. A high-value woman doesn't ask for space. She becomes the space. She doesn't wait to be acknowledged. Her presence makes acknowledgement inevitable. That is the power of commanding respect. Emotions are powerful. They are fuel, they are fire. They are the raw pulse of being alive. But here's the truth: most people never master emotions are meant to be felt, not to control you. A high-value woman does not deny her feelings. But she also does not let those feelings dictate her choices, her actions, or her identity. Emotional control is the difference between being reactive and being unstoppable. Anyone can explode in anger. Anyone can drown in jealousy. Anyone can spiral in fear. That is easy. What is rare, what is powerful, is the ability to feel all of it deeply and still choose with clarity. A high-value woman doesn't confuse passion with chaos. She knows that the loudest one in the room is rarely the strongest. The one who can stay steady in the middle of the storm is the one everyone looks to for guidance, for strength, for leadership. The emotional control does not mean being cold. It does not mean shutting down or suppressing who you are. It means knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It means choosing not to send that angry text, not to respond from insecurity, not to sabotage opportunities out of fear. It's the wisdom to pause before reacting, the strength to respond